Hi everyone, Tracy DW here. With 3 host nations and 16 host cities, the 2026 FIFA World Cup is the largest in the tournament's history. It is the first with 104 matches across 39 days and the first with a new 48-team format. At the time of this podcast episode, the tournament has reached the third place playoff and the final stage. Other milestones have also been achieved, with the tournament setting a new all-time attendance record with over 6.25 million spectators after 96 matches. The previous record in 1994 was 3.59 million. During this group stage alone, there were 4.64 million spectators. The average attendance was approximately 64,500 per match, with 99.7% stadium occupancy. It is not only the first World Cup hosted by 3 countries, the highest cumulative attendance in FIFA World Cup history, but for the first time since 1990, all 4 semi-finalists are former world champions. As of the semi-finals, hundreds of goals have been scored across the expanded tournament. FIFA's official top scorers include Lionel Messi of Argentina, Erling Haaland of Norway, Harry Kane of England, and Dembélé from France. Although the 2026 World Cup has been notable for its expanded format, record-breaking attendances and increased global participation, there has also been the return of 4 traditional football powers, 3 of which being the main global colonisers of the past. The eventual champion will be either Spain or Argentina. European nations have been the most successful collective force in FIFA World Cup history, although their dominance has always been challenged by South America. Together, Europe, UEFA, and South America, CONMEBOL, have won every World Cup since the tournament began in 1930. UEFA's winning nations have secured 12 titles since the tournament's conception, with Italy and Germany joint first with 4, France with 2, England once, and Spain once. And South America, CONMEBOL, secured the other 10 titles, with Brazil claiming 5, Argentina 3, and Uruguay 2. Outside Europe and South America, success has been much more limited. Africa's best finish was when Morocco reached the semi-finals in 2022. Asia's best finish was South Korea reaching the semi-finals in 2002. North America's best finish was when United States reached the semi-final in 1930, and Oceania has never produced a semi-finalist. With just 5 countries accounting for every European World Cup victory, European teams have become particularly successful in recent decades. Europe has won 4 of the last 5 World Cups before Argentina's victory in Qatar in 2022. So why have these European countries been so successful? Several factors have contributed. Strong domestic leagues, such as the English Premier League and La Liga, elite youth academies which identify and develop players from an early age, professional coaching systems, sports science and tactical innovation, financial investment into clubs, facilities and national team development, with high-quality international competition with UEFA European Championship qualifying and the Champions League providing regular top-level matches, and of course, large player pools and the well-established football cultures across many countries. The 2026 World Cup suggests that Europe remains extremely strong, with France, Spain and England reaching the semi-finals alongside Argentina. This is the first time since 1990 that all 4 semi-finalists are former World Cup champions, and 3 of the 4 are European nations. But at the same time, the gap has narrowed. African teams, most notably Morocco in 2022, and several Asian nations have become increasingly competitive, while South America continues to produce world champions. The expanded 48-team format may give more nations experience on the world stage, but Europe and South America still set the benchmark in international football. Europe's diverse player pools are an important factor, but they are not the sole or necessarily the primary reason for its success. Most football analysts point to a combination of structural, economic, and sporting factors. Several successful European national teams include players with family backgrounds from Africa, the Caribbean, Asia, and the Middle East, or other parts of Europe. These players were typically born or raised in the country they represent and developed through that country's football system. Examples include France, where a significant proportion of recent French squads have players with African or Caribbean heritage; England, where many recent internationals have roots in Jamaica, Nigeria, Ghana, Ireland, and other countries; in Belgium, players with Congolese, Moroccan, and other backgrounds have featured prominently; and in the Netherlands, the national team has long included players with Surinamese, Caribbean, Moroccan, Turkish, and other heritage. This diversity can expand the talent pool from which a country selects its national team. However, diversity alone does not explain success. Many countries have diverse populations but have not achieved sustained football success. What matters is whether that talent is effectively identified and developed. European nations benefit from extensive youth academy networks, professional coaching from an early age, strong domestic leagues, investment in sports science and medicine, competitive youth and senior competitions, and stable football governance in many countries. Without these systems, a diverse player pool would not necessarily produce elite national teams. Football development is also key, with many of Europe's best players, regardless of their family background, coming through the same development pathway. Europe's football nations generally have large populations, such as Germany, England, France, Italy, and Spain, with high participation rates in youth football, well-funded coaching, and facilities with strong support for women's and men's football. Additional factors which increase the likelihood of producing elite players. However, migration has contributed to the diversity of several European football nations. After the Second World War, countries such as France, England, Belgium, and the Netherlands received immigration from former colonies and other parts of the world. Over subsequent generations, many descendants of these migrants became professional footballers. Though it is important to note that these players are citizens of the countries they represent and have generally been trained within those countries' football systems, it's also important to consider how key European nations have harnessed the positive benefits of migration over the last 8 decades, with no controversial debates over birthright citizenship. African nations have made significant progress in the FIFA World Cup, but they have yet to reach a final. The continent's best performances included Cameroon in 1990, Senegal in 2002, Ghana in 2010 and Morocco in 2022, all of whom reached at least the quarter-finals, with Morocco becoming the first African nation to reach a semi-final. How can Africa's nations improve their chances of progressing further? One recurring challenge has been consistency. African teams often produce outstanding individual performances and highly talented players, but sustaining that level across 7 matches, the number typically required to win a World Cup, requires squad depth, tactical adaptability, and sustained preparation. First, by investing more in youth development. The strongest football nations develop players over many years. African federations could benefit from expanding grassroots football, building more elite youth academies, improving coaching at youth levels, and increasing opportunities for girls as well as boys to play competitively. Countries such as Senegal and Morocco have invested heavily in youth development, with Morocco's Mohammed VI Football Academy often cited as a successful model. Secondly, through strengthening domestic leagues. Many talented African players leave for Europe at a young age. Stronger domestic leagues can improve player development before overseas transfers, increase the quality of local coaching, generate more commercial revenue, and produce deeper national team squads. Egypt, South Africa, Morocco, and Tunisia have some of Africa's strongest domestic leagues, although there is still room for further development. Coaching continuity can also improve by keeping the same coaching philosophy over several years. This means that long-term planning rather than frequent managerial changes, consistent tactical development, and stable relationships between players and coaching staff. Better football administration through financial transparency, reliable funding, and professional support staff will also improve relationships between clubs and national teams. This can reduce administrative disputes, allowing teams to focus on football. Some would say that there needs to be a balance of local and overseas talent, as many African internationals play in Europe's top leagues. Combining European-based professionals with domestic league players and emerging young talent can create squads with both experience and depth. However, retaining a core group of players and giving young players international experience early can help to build leadership within the squad and across the country's infrastructure. Recent successes have come from countries that combined strong planning with player development. Morocco in 2022 reached the semi-finals through defensive organisation, tactical discipline, and a technically gifted squad. Senegal has consistently qualified for recent World Cups while also winning the Africa Cup of Nations. And Ivory Coast, Ghana, and Nigeria have regularly produced world-class players, though converting that talent into deep World Cup runs has been less consistent. The 48-team format introduced in 2026 increases Africa's representation from 5 to 9 guaranteed places, with a possible 10th through the intercontinental playoffs. This expansion offers more qualification opportunities, greater tournament experience for emerging football nations, increased exposure for African coaches and players, and ultimately more chances for multiple African teams to reach the knockout rounds. The gap between Africa's leading teams and the traditional football powers has narrowed considerably. Morocco's semi-final appearance in 2022 and the quarter-final appearance has demonstrated that an African team can compete with and defeat elite opponents over the course of a tournament. With continued investment in coaching, youth development, governance and domestic football, it is realistic to expect African nations to make quarter-final and semi-final appearances more regularly. And eventually, these former empires can strike back to contend for a place in a World Cup final. If you liked this podcast, then stay on this listening platform, click the subscribe button and check out my other episodes related to this one, such as Haiti, Jewel of the Antilles, to World Cup Dreams, from this, the 6th and current season. And don't forget what I call the heart and soul of the Stories to be Told movement, my stories or poetic narratives, Caribbean Wind, Caribbean Rush, Nights at the Round Table, the Berlin Conference 1884, and Gone with the Wind, Macmillan's Speech for Change. These are all available on the website in paperback, on Amazon in Kindle format and in ebook format at Apple Books and all other digital platforms. And also, the publication of the latest 4 titles. Now, if you want to find out more, just visit storiestobetold.com and check out the learning platforms for The Journey's End, Giving Back Hong Kong, Bite from the Big Apple, A Story for New York, Hope for Zimbabwe, Arise the Phoenix, and A Story for South Africa. And if you'd like to sign up to my email list, just visit the website where you can opt in and receive your free samples of my first 4 titles. And finally, remember that you can also send me an audio message on the SpeakPipe link, which is also in the show notes, so don't be a stranger. Feel free to like, follow and share us on social media when you visit the website. Just click onto whichever social media link you would like to follow us on. And as always, it's a pleasure and a privilege to share my learning journey with you in this podcast series, and I encourage you to either begin or continue your own. History is a matter of fact or perspective. I'm Tracy DW, and this is a Stories to be Told podcast. Stay safe, stay well, stay blessed. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll see you on the next